Hi everybody, welcome to GTCoding. In the previous video, I showed you how to write the markup of our header section. In this video, we will use CSS to style our header section so that it looks like this. So let's get started. This is our HTML. Now we have already linked our style.css file in our HTML. So let's go to style.css. And we already have the colors all set up. First of all, let's go ahead and add a universal selector. So this selector will select every element in our web page, and we will set the margin of every element to 0 so that we don't have any default margin for any element. And after that, we'll set the box sizing to border box. Now this line of code makes sure that the height and the width of our element includes the padding and the border, so that we don't have any confusion when we calculate the width and the height of our element. I have a dedicated video on box model. You can watch that. I will leave the link in the description below. Alright, now the next thing we'll do is we'll set the font of our website. So we'll just set the font family to Roboto Sans Serif. We have already linked our Google fonts in our HTML. So here we can see that. Now the next thing we'll style is the wrapper. So the wrapper is the container division of everything. This is the wrapper division. So let's go to our Figma file and see what are the properties of this element. If you click on this home page frame, we can see the width of this frame is 1152. So we'll set the width of our wrapper to 1152. And we will center everything. So we'll just type margin 0 for top and bottom and auto for left and right, so that it will be centered. Now we need to calculate the space between the edge of our frame and this navigation element. So let's double click on the navigation menu, and now just press Alt and then hover over this area, and we can see that the space between the edge of the frame and this nav element is 100. So let's go over here and set a padding. So we'll set the padding of 0 for top and bottom, and for left and right we will set a padding of 100 pixels. So now the first thing we'll style is the navigation bar. So let's go over here and we'll just add a comment, and we'll target the element called desktop nav. So this is the nav element. Now the first thing we'll do is we will set the display to flex, and now we can see that we have the logo on the left and the menu items on the right. Now let's set the spacing in between these two elements. So we'll just type justify content space between. Now we can see we have the logo on the left and the menu items on the right. We also need to set the display of the menu items to flex, so that all the elements will be one next to the other. So here we'll just type desktop nav menu items, and we'll set the display to flex, and we'll also remove these bullets. So for that we can just type list style, and we'll set it to none. Now the next thing to do is we have to set some spacing between these list items. So let's go to our Figma file and let's see what is the spacing. Double click over here and double click once more. And now if you press Alt and just hover over the other element, we can see that we have a spacing in between them of 40 pixels. So let's go to our style.css and let's target the list items. So here we'll just type desktop nav menu items li, and we'll give a margin of 0 for top and bottom, and for the left and right we'll give a margin of 20 pixels. Now we are giving 20 pixels of left and right margin because if you take a look at this, we have a margin of 20 pixels for the right of about and 20 pixels for the left of our projects. So in total we have 40 pixels of spacing. Now let's style the anchor tags. So you'll just type desktop nav menu items li a. First of all, we'll get rid of the underline. So we'll just type text decoration to none, and now we don't have the underlines. And then we'll set the color of the text. So the color of the text is the dark color that we had set in our CSS. So if you scroll up, we can see the dark color is this color right here, but we have already added a variable called dark color, so we can directly access that over here. Now to use a variable in CSS, you have to type var, and inside parentheses you can type hyphen hyphen and the name of the variable, so it is dark color. So the dark color has been set for the text, and we need to set the size of our font to 16 pixels. So let's just type font size 16 pixels, and we'll also set the font weight to bold. Now let's go back to styling our desktop nav division. So let's scroll up and let's continue styling this. Here we can see that all these menu items are not centered vertically, so we can just type align items to center, and now we can see that they are centered. And we'll set the background color of the desktop nav to light color. So background var light color. Now let's go to the Figma file, and we can see that we have rounded corners and also box shadow. So let's double click on this, and let's select the rectangle. So I think this is the one, and let's go to code, and here we can see some of the styling. So let's copy these two styles from here, and we'll paste them over here. This is how it looks. Now let's see what is the padding that we need to give. So let's double click over here on the logo and press Alt and hover over this area, and we can see that we have a spacing of 31 pixels. I think we'll just round it to 30 pixels. So let's go over here and we'll type padding, and for the top and bottom we'll give a padding of 2 pixels, and for left and right 30 pixels. Now the next thing to do is we have to set the position of this desktop nav to fixed, so that even if we scroll down, the desktop nav will be right there on the top. So we will set the position to fixed, and we'll also set the z index to 200, so that it will always be on top of all the other elements. Now since we set the position of the desktop nav to fixed, we have some issues with the width of our element. So let's go over here and set the width. So the width will be 1152, which is the width of the wrapper, minus 200 pixels, because if you go to the Figma file, we can see that here we have 100 pixels of padding, and on the right also we have 100 pixels of padding. So the width of our nav element will be 1156, which is the width of the frame, minus 200. So for that we can use a function in CSS called calc, and then we can just type 1152 pixels minus 200 pixels. So now we can see that it has the correct width. Now let's see how far it is from the top. So if we hover over this, we can see that we have 28 pixels of spacing on the top. So here we can just type top 28 pixels. Now we can see that it is styled correctly. Now we need to style this button right here. So let's go back to our CSS, and here we'll just type a.btn. So if you go to the HTML, we can see for the button we have given a class of btn. So let's style that over here. The background color of the button will be red, so we'll type var hyphen hyphen red color, and we need to change the color of the text to light color. So we'll type color var light color, and I think we need to specifically set the color of the button in our desktop nav. So we'll just type desktop nav menu items lia.btn, and we'll just paste this line of code. Now let's go back to our Figma file, and let's double click over here, and here we can see we have a border radius of 24 pixels. So let's copy this, and we'll paste it over here, and we also need to give a padding. So if we hover over this, we can see that we have a padding of 30 for left and right and 14 for top and bottom. So here we will just type padding 14 for top and bottom and 30 for left and right. Now our button is styled correctly, but we have to move it to the extreme right of our desktop nav. So let's go back to our style.css, and here we can see for the list item we have given a margin of 0 for top and bottom and 20 pixels for left and right. So we need to remove the right margin of the last element. So we can just type desktop nav menu items li. To select the last item, we can just type colon nth last of type, and we can just type 1. So this will select the last element, and we will set the margin right to 0, and we still have a little bit of spacing on the right. So if you go back to the style.css, we can see for the desktop nav we have given a padding of 30 pixels for left and right. So we need to remove the padding right, so we'll just type padding right of 0. Now it is styled correctly. Now the next thing we'll do is we'll style the active class. So if you go back to Figma, we can see under about we have this rectangle, and it has a height of 3 pixels, and this will be below any menu that is active. So if you go to our HTML, we have set the first menu item, that is about, to active. So let's style that. We'll go over here and we'll just type desktop nav menu items lia dot active. Now we'll use an after element for the design, so just type colon colon after. Now let me show you what an after element does. So if you just type content hello, and if you go to our web page, we can see that after about we have hello displayed over here. So in this way we can add extra information to our element using the after element. Now we don't want to display any word, so we'll just delete hello from here, but the content property is required for the after element, so we'll just keep it blank. And we need to set the position of the after element based on the anchor tag. So first of all we'll set the position of the anchor tag to relative, and then here we can type position absolute. We saw that the height of the element was 3 pixels, and we'll keep the width to 100% of the anchor tag, and we'll also set a background color of var red color. So if you go back to our web page, we can see that this is the element. Now we need to bring it down and to the left. So we'll type left 0 and bottom, and I think minus 14 pixels is the perfect bottom position. And now we can see that the active class is working alright. That's pretty much it with the navigation menu. Now let's go ahead and style the hero container. So if you go to the HTML, we can see we have this element header with a class of hero container. We have a typo over here. We'll just fix that. Alright, now let's go ahead and style the hero container. So here we'll just type hero section. Now the height will be set to 100% of the desktop viewport. So we'll just type height of 100 VH, and we'll set the display to flex so that we have the left and the right parts one next to the other. So display to flex. Now the problem we have over here is that this hero BG and these polygons are all inside the hero container. So when we set the display to flex, everything was set one next to the other. Now for styling this, we'll first of all hide these two elements, the polygons and the hero BG. So if you go to the HTML, this is the hero BG image. Let's give it a class of hero BG, and here we'll type hero BG, and we'll just set the display to none, and we'll do the same with the polygon container. Now we can style these elements correctly. So first of all we will center them vertically. So here we'll just type align items to the center. Now we'll position them one to the extreme left and one to the extreme right. So we'll just type justify content to space between, Now first let's style the paragraph. So if you go to Figma and double click over here, and we can see we have the font family of Roboto and font size of 24 pixels. So we'll just copy this, and here we'll just type hero container left P and font size of 24 pixels. Alright, now let's see the styling of the heading. For the heading we have font family of Montserrat and font weight of bold, and then we have font size of 36. Let's go ahead and style the H1. We'll set the font family to Montserrat sans serif. Now let's give some spacing between the button and this heading. So here we will just type margin of 8 pixels for top, 0 for right, 28 pixels for bottom, and 0 for the left. Now let's set the color of GT to red. If you remember, in our HTML we had set a span and we had given it a class of GT so that we can style it separately. So we'll use that over here. We'll type hero container left GT and we'll set the color to var red color. Now let's also remove the underlines from these buttons. So we'll go over here to the BTN class and we'll type text decoration to none. Now if you go to Figma, we can see that the second button has a cyan color. So if we go to our HTML, we had already given a class of cyan to this button. So let's target that class over here. We'll just type a dot button dot cyan. So this will target all the buttons with the cyan class, and we'll give it a background color of var cyan color and the color of the text to var dark color, and we'll also set the font weight to bold. So here we'll just type font weight bold. Now if you go to the Figma design, we can see that we have a spacing between these two buttons. Let's see what is the spacing, and we can see we have a spacing of 20 pixels. So let's go over here to our left BTN. Here we'll just type hero container left BTN and we'll give it a margin right of 20 pixels. Now let's give a little bit of padding to this image. So we'll just go over here and we'll target the right division, hero container right, and we'll give a padding right of 30 pixels. Now the design is almost complete. Now let's also style the hero BG and the polygons. So here we have hero BG. Alright, so for hero BG we will set the position to absolute, and we'll set the bottom to 0 and the left to 0, and we'll also set the width to 100% and also set the z index to -1 so that it will be below all the other elements. And there we can see our hero BG is placed correctly. Now let's also style the polygons. So we'll go over here and we'll just delete this, and we'll target each of the polygons separately. So we'll type hero container polygon, and for the first polygon we'll set the position to absolute. For this also we'll set the z index to -1. We'll set the top to 100 pixels and left to 240 pixels. You can play around with these values and get the exact position you want. So here is our first polygon. Let's copy this and paste it 2 more times. And this is the second polygon. For the second one we will set the top to 180 pixels and left to 480 pixels. And for the polygon 3 we'll set the top to 300 pixels and the left to 540 pixels. Now for the left division, which is this paragraph heading and these buttons, we'll take as much width as we can so that this image will be shifted on the right. So for that you can just go over here and target the left division, hero container left, and we'll set the flex to 1 so that it will take all the possible space it can. And now we can see that the image is shifted to the right. Now lastly we will set the hover color of these buttons so that when you hover over these we have a little different color. So let's go back to our style.css and we'll go over here where we have designed all our buttons, and we'll type a.btn :hover, and when we hover we can set a background color that we have already set over here in our variables, red hover color and cyan hover color. So we'll type var red hover color, and for the hover of the cyan button we'll type button.cyan hover background of var cyan hover color, and we'll also give a transition so that it will have the smooth animation. So we'll type transition of background color to 400 milliseconds. So now if we hover over these we have different colors when we hover over these buttons. So that's basically it with the design of our header section. In the next video I'll show you how to animate these elements. So if you have any doubts you can ask in the comments below, and if you like this video please click on the like button and subscribe to this channel to get the latest video updates. Thanks a lot for watching. Have a nice day.